everyone, how you going? Karen Finnan here, physiotherapist and director of online.physio. So what I thought I'd share with you today, a lot of people ask me questions around the legal obligations and the safety measures that we've got in place at Online Physio to make sure that things are safe, not only for the patient but for the therapist as well. Now basically we've found that the safety measures fall into three main categories. The first is sort of legal, where we may have got a lawyer involved or we're talking about insurances. The next is around the actual technology side of things and the things we've got in place there. And the last one is of course more the clinical aspects. So what have we put in place to ensure that the things that we're doing clinically are safe? So let's get started with those. So first of all, we're talking about the legal aspects of our safety with our telehealth consultations. And a few of the things that we've put in place here, first of all, when we built the website, we had the terms and conditions of use and the terms and conditions of purchase legally written up by a lawyer. So the degree to which the law will enable us to be indemnified, we are from that perspective. And that's not enough right there. We've then got to introduce that to our patients at certain points in our process to guide them to those terms and conditions, to link them through so that if they continue past that point, we're assuming that they've read and acknowledged them. So it's one thing to get them written up, it's another to include them in your process that people are guided to them. The next, of course, is from the insurance perspective. So in terms of your indemnity insurance, it's important to make sure that online consultations are included and covered. Now, it's my prediction that down the track, this will be built in normally because as more and more health professionals practice online consultations, it will need to be included as standard. But it's not currently, and you certainly want to make sure that that's built in. So we approached our indemnity insurer and they have put a clause on our indemnity insurance to cover us for the online consultations. The final part of the legal side of it is really the most obvious one, and that is that even though we're working online, we still have all the standard professional requirements that our profession does. So in terms of our continuing education, our code of ethics, our professional standard, our confidentiality, all of that is exactly the same, and we need to uphold those same criteria. So they are the legal aspects that we've covered with our online consultations. So let's move on now and talk a little bit more about the technology side of safety in online consultations. And the first is very early on when I was doing these online consultations, I realized that it was very easy to digitally track a 100% record of these consultations. So from any email communication to any video calls that can be recorded to any follow-up messaging within a secure app, all of that provides a 100% record of the whole process. So as you can see, that then makes it actually legally more safe than an in-person consultation where you're just scribbling your notes or typing your notes down afterwards. So do make sure that when you set up your system, that you've put simple measures in place to ensure that every part of that process is fully recordable for your records, just to record that safety disclaimers and stuff that you've got in place so that you can show legally that you've got all of that. It also helps with the patient because of course if we've had a video call, I can supply that call to the patient and they can listen through it again and retain more information. Now the other thing with the technology side of it is that you are only as strong as the weakest link in your technology chain. So if you're using very secure cloud-based practice management software, but yet you leave your laptop unlocked, untended and logged in on your ways around the world, then you've obviously opened up a vulnerable link there. So it goes without saying to use safe softwares and secure platforms, but from a physical gadget perspective, who else has a password to your phone that allows you to access patient records? Who else has access to your computer or a password that allows them to access patient records? Anybody who doesn't need to access those records clinically for your patient should not be able to access your gadgets. Now, I know for people like husbands and wives who unlock each other's phones all the time, this is where you just have to put an extra layer of control in it. I've got my iPhone, which is fingerprint protected. It's only recognizable by my fingerprints, so any usage of my phone I keep supervised. It is just a choice that I've made to honor my commitment to security of clinical records. So moving on now to the clinical side of safety with telehealth consultations. These are some of the measures that we've put in place. So the first is that we won't treat patients that we feel aren't suitable for our platform. And this could be, are they perhaps not suitable for physiotherapy, full stop? And that's the same as what we would do in a face-to-face clinic. Or are they suitable for physiotherapy, but we don't feel that they're suitable for the online format? Now, I have found this happens less than you think, that we've had to turn people down, because the conditions and the people seem to be self-selecting. If they're happy to have a musculoskeletal injury rehabbed with exercise, they're the ones that are finding us anyway. But we always stand by the fact that we will not treat them. Full refund, no questions asked, an appropriate referral if we don't feel someone is relevant for A, physiotherapy, or B, the telehealth format. The next thing that we've got in place are injury-specific disclaimers. So these are things like, if someone presents with calf pain, we make sure we include in writing or recorded verbal that we let them know that if their calf is red hot and swollen, that they need to attend a GP immediately. So use the beauty of technology. We know the conditions that have those special questions where we need to fast track people to a doctor for assessment. So build them into your systems for that particular body part or that particular injury type. Now, when we're doing our objective testing, obviously we've got to do that on the conservative side, and we've got to make sure that it's suitable for the patient in terms of their stability, their balance, all of that sort of stuff. Now, that's easy to do with a very thorough subjective. You should have a really good idea of the patient's abilities just through a subjective assessment. And we also have some basic guidelines that we give people for objective testing environment setup. So what sort of space that they'll need to make sure there's nothing underfoot. And even just little things like perhaps instead of a lumbar flexion in standing, we can get them in a long sit and do a lumbar flexion that way. So let's make sure that our objective assessments are conservative and safe for the patient. And finally, if someone isn't progressing as we would like, we are sure to refer them on to a service that is appropriate for them, be it in-person physiotherapy or another health profession. So this is just the same as in-person or face-to-face care. If we're not happy with the progress, we want to get that patient to where they need to be. So I hope that's been helpful, a helpful summary of all the safety measures that you can put in place for your telehealth consultations. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye.